It is time for the Board Wrap-Up Show with Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools, Shelley Arrott, coming once again from Zoom. I'm in a radio studio at First and Grand here at 101 Country KPNC, and Shelley Arrott at the Board of Education building, and it is time for the Board Wrap-Up right here. And Shelley, fantastic. A lot of changes. This is one of them with this Board Wrap-Up via
It
Zoom,
is.
and yeah, a lot of people
Here
are
I
doing it.
am at 613 East Grand in the conference room by myself with the door shut. So
Right.
it's good to visit with you.
Yeah. Well, the board meeting on Monday, what a challenging school year for not just Ponca City Public Schools, but every district in our state. There's a lot to cover. So where do we begin?
Well, we'll talk a little bit about an update to our plan. And you're exactly right, Sean. It has been a challenge for all school leaders, not just in Oklahoma, but all across the nation. And I want to say this right up front. Our State Department of Education and the leadership group of superintendents in the state of Oklahoma have been so supportive of each other. And we're working together and trying to use each other's ideas and share strategies. So even though it has been tireless, there has been a lot of support. So, and there's been a lot of support from our staff. I will tell you, our entire staff has worked as one huge team along with our community to help us develop a safe reopening for our students. So.
Very good. Well, there were a lot of things on the agenda, as you would imagine. What were some of the big highlights from the Board of Education meeting for August?
We had two reports and those were pretty lengthy, and one was the superintendent's, my report, and it just had some updates in regard to where we are with our COVID-19 alert system level, staffing, our virtual options. So I'll share some of that information with you first. And,
yes, please.
And I think our community knows that we have a decision making tree that correlates to the COVID-19 alert system that was developed by the Oklahoma State Department of Health. And each week we get a risk level based on the number of new cases per day, 7-day rolling average per capita of 100K. So I try to track this all the time. I watch the new cases every day just so I can kind of predict our risk level, because that's so important for us as we move forward. We do want to stay in the yellow risk level. Green is the lowest risk. There's basically no risk, but the yellow level is a low risk of transmission, and currently we are in the yellow. And actually last week on August 7th, we actually went down 2 points. We went from 9.38 to 7.62, so almost 2 full points. And I've been watching that data this week and just holding my breath as it comes out. And this data even looks to be more promising than last week's data. In fact, a couple of days this week, we only had 1 new case, and there was a day we had 0 new cases. So I am cautiously optimistic, and the new risk level will come out tomorrow at about 11:30 a.m. And I am going to send out a letter to our parents via local media and our social media tomorrow. Our staff reports tomorrow, just talking a little bit about the school year. But on Monday morning, I'll do a video and I'll update everyone with the new risk level. But I am cautiously optimistic. So at the yellow level, we plan to start traditional school. With that said, we offered 3 learning options this year. Option 1 is traditional brick and mortar classroom instruction. Right. Option 2 is virtual. but students can participate in our OSSAA extracurricular activities. So it's kind of a blended model where some is virtual, some is in class. They have to come to the course or the practice at the time that is scheduled. And then option 3 is strictly online. And our data changes frequently, but as of yesterday, we have 640 students enrolled in options 2 or 3. And when we first began developing this, we did not realize the magnitude of it. I don't think any Oklahoma school did. But from around the metropolitan area, schools are seeing about 30% of their students enrolled in virtual options. Today, we are right at 16% enrolled in our virtual options. So we are still registering students for the new year. Our enrollment is down a little bit this year, as is all of Oklahoma down, but we do expect students to enroll on our final makeup days next week, and then even after the first day of school. So having a large percentage out of the classroom for these virtual options also allows us to social distance even further in the classrooms. And Sean, we have talked about this multiple times on the radio show, but each of our sites have intentional plans to put in layers of protection at every level. And I am so proud of PCPS and our Board of Education, because we are doing everything possible to keep our students, our staff, and our community as healthy as possible. We will temp check every student every day. If they get temp checked on the bus, they won't have to have another temperature check when they come in the building. So it's not just students, it's staff as well. So we've purchased tons of infrared thermometers to do that. We have purchased thousands of dollars of PPE, from face coverings to hand sanitizer to disinfectant misters, disposable gowns, gloves, and I will tell you, our community has come out of the woodwork to support us. Yesterday, Phillips 66 donated 6,000 bottles of hand sanitizer to us, and 200 face shields, the clear face shields. I got a call from Alliance Health this morning, and they are donating 1,700 navy and red face coverings for our students. And they said they want to give back to us because we gave them our hand sanitizer back in the spring when they needed us. Yeah. And it just gives me chill bumps about how tight knit our community is. I mean, it's the Ponca City standard. You support each other. Another thing we know, as you know, our students are required to wear a face covering in the building, as are adults, unless they're alone in a room by themselves. And we know that there will be some kids that forget their face coverings. So we have put out a call to the community to cut some one and done face coverings out of fabric, t-shirt material, old clean sheets. And I can't even tell you how many people are doing that to support us. So if a student comes to the bus and doesn't have their face covering, we're going to have a makeshift face covering, either a paper one or one that our community members have made. These are not hemmed, no ear loops, just to get our students in school. So it's been amazing. So I updated the board on that, and I gave them an update in regard to the risk level across Oklahoma. And I will say the numbers were promising. 45 of our counties had a decrease in their risk level, decrease of new cases per day the week of August 6th. Many counties improved a color-coded risk level. There were some increases, but overall, I am cautiously optimistic. That's why all of us have to do our part to keep this spread of virus down. We want to come to school and we want our kids to come to school, but we're going to have to be at a safe level. And right now we are at a manageable level.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
OSSAA, they recently made the announcement that they are fine with sports and fall sports and that going forward. Of
Yes.
course, it puts the responsibility on each of the school districts to come up with a plan. I know that Ponca City Public Schools has a plan. Was that a part of the discussion at the board meeting?
It was a part of the discussion, and we gave some general activities guidelines. I mean, we have fine arts, including orchestra, band, theater, sports, ag. We have some general guidelines for our athletes, our coaches, our participants, our parents, even for our officials. And so we want to welcome people to our facilities, but a mask or a face covering are required for all participants, coaches, workers, officials, or patrons entering a Ponca City Public Schools indoor facility. Outdoors, spectators may remove the face coverings in locations where there's adequate space, but we're asking them to keep them on in common areas like the concession stand area, that kind of thing. Our ticket takers will be wearing masks and they will be gloved. And something that we've had to look at is each individual facility. So it will look different for each facility. Softball field, outside, we distance parents. Cross country, super easy to distance and spread out. However, football is going to be a big thing for us at Solon's because since our community is behind all Wildcats, Solon Stadium is packed. And we are going to reduce the capacity, and it's only temporary. As soon as COVID allows us, we'll go back to normal, and we're going to be putting that information out soon. And I'll give you just a little bit about that information. At our football games, we're going to have our football players, we're going to have our band, we're going to have our high steppers, and we're going to have our cheerleaders. That is an integral part of the extracurricular student spirit culture. So we want them attending, and it's important that their parents are there. So we are going to provide 4 vouchers to parents of all of these students. And this is a tribute to how involved our kids are. We have 250 football players, band members, high steppers, and cheerleaders, over 250. So we are going to distribute over 1,000 vouchers to their parents. It's integral for their parents to be there. We're also going to have a student section. There's a specific number for that. We'll get all those details out, but it's very fair. We are going to have some open tickets to sell to our public, but in the meantime, we want to encourage all of our avid Wildcat fans to enjoy the activity from home, because we are, as you know, increasing our live streaming of our fabulous events. So
yes, for sure.
As soon as we can, we're going to get everybody back in, and we can't wait to have our houses packed, and we will get there at some point. But right now, the safety of our students, staff, and our community is the top priority.
Yeah, well
So
said.
Go ahead.
Well, there were other issues and things addressed during the Board of Education meeting for August, the last before we start this 2020-2021 school year. What were the other things discussed?
We had our typical business, our consent agenda, contracts, and July was a big meeting for approving contracts, but we did have additional contracts to approve with Edgenuity and Accelerate, the curriculum systems that we're going to be using for our virtual students. And we're calling option 2 and option 3 Ponca City Virtual Academy. And Sean, I'm really excited about that. Our teachers, our hometown Ponca City teachers who know how we operate will be managing those students that are in
Wonderful.
our virtual academy. They will tutor, they will intervene, they will make contact with the students and parents. And in fact, then today and tomorrow, we are meeting with those parents, passing out their device, hotspot if they need it, talking about the requirements. It's going to be, we want it to be an excellent program. And we have staffed that with 15 teachers. And I will tell you, our staff members rallied. It's hard to change your assignment, and we've asked a lot of people to change their assignment, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to be with our kids so they can be in school. So if I may, can I talk just a little bit about something that we're doing with our virtual?
Yes, please.
Okay, so as we're enrolling students for virtual and moving staff, it was such a large magnitude, and we want to be able to serve the students in the option that's best for them. I felt like that we were trying to staff it blindly because we were having new people coming in and out, and we have to get our schedules ready for our brick and mortar options. School starts a week from yesterday. So we're entering a transition period. All right, with our 640 that are enrolled right now, we need to see how this is going to shake out so we can staff. So we have a transition period from now through September 11th. We are going to allow students who are in Ponca City Virtual Academy, option 2 or option 3, to go back to option 1 if that's what they so choose. And we've already had some do that. And that will tell us the staffing that we will need in our building and how much space we have in virtual academy. In the meantime, we are taking a list for our virtual academy, and that will tell us 2 things. Number 1, the interest, and number 2, it will help us have some data to make staffing decisions. So even though they're on a waiting list, we interest list, I guess you would call it, we'll move forward on September 14, and that can help us staff. We want to provide a quality program. We know there could be some exceptions. We have some vulnerable students and some vulnerable families, and those will be our first exceptions. We will not put them in a traditional classroom if they're vulnerable during that transition period. So we have some options out there, and I'll get out a letter to our families tomorrow and try to explain all that to them. So we're excited about the year. We can't wait to see our kids, whether it be in person or virtually. So our teachers are ready to go. They love our kids. They've been out of the classroom now for 5 months, and so have our kids. And it's time. Yeah. We need to see them, and they need to come back to school as long as it's safe. And so I am praying we can keep our risk level down.
Yeah. Well, it's something that you have, you and a lot of other folks have put together this plan that is ready to change at a moment's notice. And
a moment's notice.
A moment's notice. And as those risk factors come in, and of course we're in the yellow now, that new system, that really will inform how the school district proceeds. And so staying connected with Ponca City Public Schools now more important than ever, and there are multiple options to do that. What is your recommendation?
I can't even stress enough how important it is to download the PCPS app. We have a lot of patrons who aren't on Facebook, but if they can get those messages through the app, and always check our website, www.pcps.us. Our webmaster, Barbara Nallen, and our information coordinator, Mary Ladd, keep it up to date, and they try to keep the latest press release at the top, but they have an archive of all press releases and videos. And call us. I talk to hundreds of people every day. We're all ready to support. We know it's new and it's different to our parents, and there are going to be some changes, but what is not different is we are going to continue to love our students and have positive relationships with them and offer them wonderful educational opportunities. So, and one thing that is never going to change, no matter how much we change our protocols, is that we are the Ponca City Wildcats, and we're there for each other. So it is going to be an interesting year, and we're ready to pivot if we need to full distance learning. And our board gave themselves some flexibility in those higher levels. As deemed necessary, we could pivot to distance learning, or possibly to an AB schedule where half the students come in one day and half the next. I will tell you that's not really highly favored. It's hard on families, and there's no guarantee that we could split our classes to where there's not 2 on one day in a class and 28 in another. So we're just continuing to hold out hope that we can stay in that yellow risk level.
All right. Superintendent, go ahead.
I do want to say to our parents too, we cannot out-strategize this pandemic, and we have lots of plans. So if plan A does not work, there are 25 more letters of the alphabet, and we have a plan for every single one of them. So the best thing that I can say and ask and request is have patience, flexibility, and extend grace to us. We may have to change something on a moment's notice, and these decisions weigh heavy on us, but we have to protect our kids. So bear with us. We all of us aren't going to agree on everything, but we do have to be patient and have empathy and respect for each other. Love conquers all.
Yeah, for sure. Well said. Shelley Arrott, Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools. And every month, this is the board wrap-up show. Right after the Board of Education meeting for the month, we get together and we have a sit down with Shelley Arrott, and we go over the issues discussed at that month's meeting. We look forward to a new school year of these via Zoom right here. And Shelley Arrott at the Board of Education, and I'm at the radio studios at First and Grand in the Ponca Theater. And Shelley, thank you for being with us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Sean. It's a great way to provide information to our community. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, the board wrap-up show with Shelley Arrott. That's going to do it for Ponca City Public Schools. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, and thank you for watching.